This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
51 verses 1 and 2 says, "Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness and who seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were cut, and to the quarry from which you were hewn. Look to Abraham, your father, and to Sarah, who gave you birth. When I called him, he was but one, and I blessed him and made him many." So it wasn't something that Abraham and Sarah concocted and made up and did. She was worthless. She couldn't have a child. And she wasn't of any value to society. But God had different plans. You may not see yourself as worth much or of any particular value to God. You may see yourself as damaged goods or a cultural disgrace, but God sees you differently. And He's ready to pour out His grace, His unmerited favor on you at the right time, in the right place. A few months later, when Sarah realized that everything God said was coming true, she made a most enlightening statement in Genesis 21, verse 6. God has brought me laughter. That's what she said. After she had been embarrassed and said, "Oh, I wasn't laughing," and God said, "Yeah, you did." Now she realized in chapter 21, verse 6, God has brought me laughter. And everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Did you catch that? Sarah realized that in spite of how intense and serious and life-changing the birth of Isaac was, there was also something humorous about it. She was 90 years old, but more importantly, God was in control, and in fact, had given her the insight to laugh. She could laugh at the circumstances, but be totally serious about the fact that her life and the life of the world was changing drastically. Now, there's something that's very important to understand about laughter and about humor. The Bible uses the word joy a lot. Joy is not humor. Joy is not laughter. And joy is something that we've said, oh, joy is like feeling happy. No, it isn't. That's not joy at all. Joy is much bigger than that. In fact, the New Testament calls joy a fruit of the Spirit, a fruit of the Holy Spirit, something that God does. You see, the word that's used for joy is the word brightness. It's a sense that light is coming into the darkness of your life. Now think about this metaphor. You're in a dark room. Humor is the window that you open up that lets the light of joy into your darkness. Humor is the window that lets the light of joy into your darkness. Ladies and gentlemen, David Nastor.
He was laughing. He wasn't the one having the baby. That's why he wasn't laughing. Yes, I have experience being a comedian I'm going to the 34th year now of doing it. But you said something fascinating, Dan, when I was listening. Fear lives in your brain. Fear lives in the way we think. So does humor lives in the way we think. How these people that are in the most unbelievable situations, how can they see something, hear something, and flip it around and think of something funny? It's all in the way you think. So I'm going to ask you to think different, okay? Here's an example right now. I read this week that the sun is going to burn up in 2.6 billion years. I don't know if that means anything to anybody in this room. What that means is they're going to have to finish 4:35 in the dark. That's what that means. It's the way you think. See, to me, Dan, I'll get to this in a second, joy, part of the joy is getting the joke that in your brain. That's part of the joy. Here's another one. You've heard this. This is an old joke. I don't know if you've ever told this one before. What happens when it's a good joke. I can tell it here. It's okay. What happens when you cross an insomniac, an agnostic, and a dyslexic? What do you get? Do you know? I'll say it again. Somebody already knows the joke. An insomniac, an agnostic, and a dyslexic. What do you get? Can you figure it out? Can you think of it? You know, have you heard it before? Did you figure it out? Okay, tell me. Someone who lays awake at night wondering if there really is a dog. It'll give me a while for them to get that, just in a second. Insomniac, somebody can't sleep, and agnostic wonder if there's a God. No, dyslexic, a dog. Okay, got a dog. Okay. Dan, I've never told you this before, and just the mere mention of this always makes people uncomfortable. And this is an original, something I came up with, but I just think it's so funny. You know, to me, one of the coolest things about being Jesus would have been one of the coolest things. Every time I say that, notice how quiet the room gets. Everywhere I go. You know the coolest thing about being Jesus? Is looking at somebody and go, what's your dad do? Let me tell you about mine. On career day, that would have been a cool thing to do. Obviously, a lot funnier to me than you, but that's okay. And that's right, because the humor is to yourself. Johnny Rollins. Johnny may have told this on the air. I'm not sure if he did. Johnny's dad was dying of degenerative heart failure. And so he went over to see his dad one day. Hospice was there. And he said, what do you want to do, Dad? He goes, the son, I'd like to take a hot shower. Let's go. Johnny starts the shower, goes in to see his dad. His dad's giggling. His dad's in the bed, 84 years old, laughing because he's sitting there naked, laughing. Dad goes, what's so funny? He goes, look at me. That's what's so funny. But he said, let's get in the wheelchair. And as Johnny's wheeling him to go take a shower, Bob looks up at him and says, son, you're going to have to take your clothes off. You're going to have to take a shower too. Get in there with me. So Johnny takes his clothes off. The two guys, Johnny is pushing his dad through the house in the wheelchair. They're naked, okay? That in itself is funny. Are you ready? They go by the kitchen door. The door knocks, and it's Cousin Sue. Hi, is anybody home? And the guys are standing there. And she said, this isn't a good time. I'll come back.